Hail, hail, Celtic here. What the hell do we care now? We're back. We've had a wee bit of a winter hiatus with trying to be getting some warm weather treatment in here for the Sorare Celtic Supporters Club, but it is still Baltic. But there's some good news. We've got Mark Patrick Weir back on the show, along with a new signing in the January window. Mark, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you, mate. Good to be back. Hail, hail. Yeah, not a great deal happening for Celtic, but they'll be back in a pitch at least this coming weekend and on SO5 in the next weekend. So it'll be good to see the boys back.
I look forward to it. The Bucky Thistle game is one of those ones that's not. There's one of those games that crops up in the cup maybe once every 2 or 3 years where you get a team that has like gone through a few rounds and then they get the lucky draw sort of thing. So it's not one that I've given much attention to. I think a lot of people are talking about it now, but because of the new signing, and a lot of people are hoping and wishing that we maybe see a debut there. But I'm looking forward to getting back to the league and getting, let's go and get the title done. Let's go and get the job done this year, because it's before the winter break. It was a wee bit, I don't know if I want to say nervous, but definitely confidence had taken a dip, hadn't it?
Yeah, there was definitely, I think off the back of losing to Kilmarnock, and then, we're dropping points kind of all over the place, really, when games that you'd be fancying is to comfortably win. I felt the Hearts game, I've said before, Hearts are a good team, good individuals in that team. Wasn't surprised to see Hearts line up the way that they did. Didn't really do a great deal against us that day, to be honest with you, but smash and grab, and the games are going to happen if you're not set up to do that. But getting the win against Rangers was just nice and sweet. Just kind of set us up for going off for the holiday period. But feel a lot better now, if I'm honest, about how we're shaping up coming back after the break. I totally agree with you about the Bucky Thistle thing. It's nice, but I think the league is the bread and butter in it. And I don't know. I know that we're selfishly so rare looking at it, thinking we don't have any skin in that game. So technically, that's a write-off for us. But ultimately, it's a good opportunity. I would like to maybe give some of the kind of squad guys a bit more minutes, and there's obviously players away for the Asian Cup that are going to be missing, so there'll be an opportunity there for some guys to come in, you would think. Fully expect Celtic to spank them heavily.
This is definitely the fixture that you give contracts to the likes of Ralston and Forest for, isn't it? It's so that when you play like Bucky Thistle in the Cup or something, you can play Ralston at right back. There's no harm, no foul. He'll get a good 90 minutes. He'll do his bit, probably. I'm just kind of speculating, but yeah, like you say, it's the squad players that's coming into. It's not. Maybe it's some of the youth guys we've seen. I know. I'm not too sure if you have, but so I don't want to speak for you. But we were talking on this channel on another show quite a lot about the stuff with the B team. I forget which one it was exactly, but a player that I managed to interview Darren O'Day after one of the Champions League matches or whatever, and he said that Mackenzie Carse, who is the B team captain, he's chapping at the door of the first team, and he's like a tidy wee controller, little defensive mid type player. Looked really good. I thought he was he looked the part, certainly. He's got a wee loan into the Scottish Championship with Queen's Park. So I think some of the youth players, they're definitely trying to get them maybe in this window, the ones they're taking seriously, maybe try and get them severe minutes. So for a game like Bucky Thistle, maybe not those guys you might see emerging, like the ones that are genuinely like Mackenzie Carse, chapping on the door, not going to get minutes with it
out. I think the thing is that you'd always like to see those guys get a chance. I mean, obviously under Adge, there was games where he brought in like Savata,
Owen Moffat.
Owen Moffat, the mighty Owen Moffat. Where is he now? I know he went down to Blackpool, did he not?
No idea where he is right now. But...
yeah. But yeah, that kind of didn't go the way that we'd expected it to. But yeah, some of the players that you'd kind of expected to make an impact, certainly haven't went on and developed. But certainly this is a fixture, as you rightly say, to give those guys an opportunity. If it was someone more reputable, you would maybe, go a slightly stronger team. But you would have those guys in the bench, in my opinion, if just to deal with the
banana skin.
The potential that we do struggle there. But I think it is definitely a squad game fixture, in my opinion, and I wouldn't be overexerting, because at the same time you don't want to just bench the full team, because we have got to keep guys reasonably fresh. You would like to see some new bodies in there at least.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of you joining us live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're joining the stream live, thanks very much. Make sure to hit the like button and get into the live chat and let us know what you think about the January window so far. Because, Mark, we've had our first signing. We were, the writing was on the wall for me and I think for every Celtic fan, of course, that we have to spend money in this window. But there was always that level of skepticism of, well, they might not actually. Like, they could, biscuit tin their way out of this somehow and just get a few loans or whatever. But we have went out and we have signed someone. But the craziest part about it for me is it's a winger, like something that was not on the menu at all for the transfer window. Like what is needed. Yeah. A winger was nowhere near anything. So surprising, although exciting. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think we spoke about, and I know that you've done some content on this, and I know that you've been playing about with Y Scout, which is good. Had a good play around with that as well. Absolute elite performance tool for highlighting, the top athletes playing football, and into those kind of major percentiles to highlight, where their main key strengths are. And I think it's important for a lot of people, that are giving opinions about they should sign X player and Y player. All clubs are now bought into this data analytics, and if they aren't making decisions to some degree based on this, then they are, as Sean would say, data illiterate. So ultimately, Kuehn, I totally agree with you. I think we've made this comment on the show many occasions by saying we're covered for wingers, and like you and I spoke about off air about, not just the surprise that we did go for another winger yet again, but what that means for the other wingers. And you said to me that you think Abada's going to be the one that steps out for that. That was my initial thought as well. I thought Abada would be the one. I know that there's obviously political tension as well. I know that his girlfriend likes an Instagram story or two, and I think that's riled some fans, and I think some fans have certainly maybe reacted as well, and it's maybe upset him. So I think that would be a factor. But I think most of the fans generally like Abada, and I think he's had a overwhelmingly a good impact at Celtic, and I would have fully expected him to go and push on, particularly those games that Maeda's out. But yeah, I would agree with you. I would say it probably would be Abada go out. The rumours that you had mentioned to me, it looks like he'll be going on loan. So I think you would probably be shaping up, just from my understanding, that would be 2 of 3 of Maeda, Kuehn and Palma for those 3 slots. Sorry, the 2 slots. I'm just inventing a slot there. So basically, it would be 2 goes into 3 goes into 2. I don't think I think Mikey Johnson, Forrest are now so far down the line. I don't think Vata's. I think he's getting loaned out, is he not?
Where are we going?
Or so? No, he's getting sold, isn't he? Because his contract's running down. So yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much where we're at. I fully agree. I think that the thing is that going back to the players that are not getting a game at the moment, I think it's quite interesting that Harry Kewell obviously when he's now the manager of Yokohama. Harry Kewell's job at Celtic predominantly was to coach the wingers. You know, I would be surprised if we get to the end of this window and he doesn't have, doesn't try to go for one of them. You know, I'd love to see James Forrest in the J League, I have to say. I'd love to see wee Jamesy get into
Forrest
the
could be good in
byline.
the J League.
Jamesy cutting it back to Big Anderson Lopez to smack it home for Big Grogerson Lopez, we call him, because he spat on a player. And he got a big Grogerson Lopez, he got a 6-game ban for spitting on somebody. Anyway, despite his inability to maintain, to keep hold of his bodily fluids, he is a hell of a player. And I think that a winger like a James Forrest would flourish because they've got Jan Matthias and Elber on the left, or even Mikey Johnson. By the way, I think these guys could do a job, and I think it would be the type of thing that would be that mental that it might just work. So there's my left field curveball, which more fantasy than reality, but I would love to see that happen. And the fact he's already looks like he's going to take Kobayashi. I don't know if that's done yet. Is that
I read
actually
something
done?
today. I don't know if it was clickbait or whatever. That's why I added them back onto the board. I'd seen something today, maybe yesterday, suggesting it's maybe not as close to a done deal as people may have had us all think earlier. So I don't really know, to be honest with you, bud.
Yeah.
So
I know that
we should sell some more guys to the J League. I agree. You know, it might not be huge transfer fees, but at least they'll buy them if they work. You know,
I just think the fact that the link there of Harry Kewell being, the wingers coach, so he knows those guys more than anyone really, because he's working specifically with 7-8 players day to day. I know that he'd so much time. Obviously, Maeda's not getting back. Yokohama would take him back in a heartbeat. But it's just interesting that, we on our Sorare Odyssey podcast, we just done a J League focus, and it was interesting that we looked at Yokohama and they've not went top heavy for the start of the new season. So there is space in there for wingers. So I mean, there's no basis for that other than just it all makes sense. So I have that rumor is entirely invented by me, but yeah, Kobayashi. The only thing I would say is that at the back they've got rid of Tsunoda at Yokohama, and they've got Hatanaka and Eduardo. So I would imagine Kobayashi would fit in there alongside Eduardo. Sean reckons they're too similar. I think they can play together at the back, because I actually think the profile of Tsunoda is the weakest out of that whole defensive line for Yokohama. Anyway, so I don't want to turn this into the J League stuff, but yeah, generally speaking, I think there's a chance that one of your wingers will go there. I think if Yang was gettable for Kewell, I think he would be an easy one for him, but I don't see Celtic letting Yang go.
Back to Asia. Yeah, it kind of feels pointless to bring him over here to then send him back. It's not really going to develop him the way or in the direction you would want him to. The same way that we've had with our other players. But yeah, when I had the little thing on, like the depth in the wide areas is incredible right now in terms of actual numbers. And it feels like when it was getting to the stage right before we sold like Giakoumakis and Juranovic, where it was like the whole squad was like, wow, everyone is absolute quality here, two to a position. And also some guys that were maybe still, we thought like Iwata might have been a bit more of an impact. And there's a few other players who are maybe not here anymore, like Amoy or whatever. But there was a stage where the squad got quite apex, it felt, like really for like 18 players, like international caliber, European caliber. And then, we're kind of trying to build back up to that a little bit. But when you look at the forward area, it's probably the only area of the pitch you could say this about, but it does feel like it's getting to that saturation point in a good way, where it's like if you're able to keep all of them there, Dyson, Palma, Kyogo, Kuhn, Abada, and they all
Yeah.
can do a bit. That's not bad, is it?
Yeah, totally agree. I think that you can see in the forward areas, I think there's 5, 6 of undoubted quality there, and Dyson, Palma, Kyogo, Kuhn, Abada. I actually think the areas that stand out to me as weaknesses, just looking at that, is the central midfield, point, and defence, particularly the left. On the right.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm actually quite comfortable with the right. CCV, Welsh behind him. Welsh is just an out-and-out backup, and he does a job when he comes in. I mean, every time, he might not be people's cup of tea, but whenever he's called upon, he comes in, does a job, gets back to the bench. Same with Ralston. I know I've been critical of Ralston, but if his job is just to be a backup, then he does that job, and he always comes on and does a job when needed, and he does it well. Johnson, I think, certainly in the last couple of games, starting to look, in a bit better shape again. But then you look at the left. Taylor, I've got Greg Taylor cards as a disclaimer, but not been as excited. I know a lot of people have said he's played much better this season.
He's at his limit, isn't he? You can see his limit.
I think that's it. I think that's it in a nutshell. He is at his limit.
Yeah, which is fine. But we need a bit more. We need something a little bit different as well.
Something as well. And I think on this show, I know that I don't listen to a lot of other Celtic podcasts, but I see a lot of mental, crazy opinions coming out. But we called it pretty quickly with Scales. As soon as I seen Scales improving, I was like, wow, this guy's changed. Something's changed in him this season. I think the biggest change in him actually is that he's playing in the left side of centre defence in a team that's flying forward, possession based, and he's playing a big part in that. I did see, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I did see people before saying, get him to left back, and you're like, yeah, that's why you're not involved in football, because his data at left back is horrific. He would get ripped to shreds at left back because he's not got the pace. But you put him at left centre back, and he's like a Rolls Royce. His performances this season just are absolutely breathtaking. I mean, you can see on that map there, forget that second glass game where he had a bit of a bomb scare, but the rest of that is just absolute superb. Do you know what I really like about him? And I know a lot of people go on about Starfelt, and Starfelt, when he played for Celtic, was good. I don't have anything massively critical to say about him, but see the amount of times he lost the ball, and it was just misplaced passes where he just gave the ball to the opponent. It was just horrific. I'm pretty sure if you'd done a comparison, Starfelt at Celtic last season compared to Scales at Celtic this season, you would see that Scales is miles ahead of him in terms of distribution and successful passes. I think Starfelt might slightly have the edge on him in dueling, but in terms of actual progressive passing and distribution, Scales is light years ahead of him, and I think Scales can develop a lot more as well. So actually really happy with Liam Scales.
No, my female. I still see people saying when everyone's fit and available, the best back four should be Naroki and Carter Vickers, and it's just like, to get Scales out of it. I'm totally with you, by the way, and I think you've summed it up very succinctly there. Like, Starfelt and Vickers had this incredible record domestically where they got clean sheets and victories and great runs and streaks and everything, and nobody could get by them. Shots on target were just, at an absolute premium with those two guys at the back. But like you say, sometimes Starfelt on the ball was Bambi on ice, and people forget that real quickly. Like getting out the left-hand side of the pitch was really hard. You had to have Taylor coming in inverted and being a playmaker to get us out and get us out wide and make things happen. And Scales, like both sides of the ball, I think so still underrated. Like if we paid 5 million for this guy in the summer and he was called Gustav Lagerbielke and he was doing this stuff, people would be saying, oh, he's going to go to, this guy's going all the way to the top and everything else. But because it's Scales and because he's had a bit of a journey to get to where he's at, it's maybe not quite as glamorous, but this is the exact thing that you want. as a player to
You're right.
eventually come good after a bit of belief and a bit of, let's just call it, investment's been put into him.
I think you're right. I think the thing is that we don't really seem to cater for the fact that people can improve. We obviously want people to improve, but we don't seem to cater for it. I go back to like something that I remember really clearly. Was Kieran Tierney when he burst onto the scene, and he played. Was it a Turkish team? We played at home. Pretty sure it was a Turkish team, and Van Persie was it not Fenerbahce?
Played Fenerbahce, yeah.
And I just thought, oh my God, this guy's world class. Already. I just went, oh my God, he's got a wee bit to go clearly, but he's got that in him. I was like, this is insane. Go on to Twitter, Celtic fans, get Ishigiri back in it, and you're like, no, stop it. Put that keyboard down, stop it. It's just, and it's that type of thing, which is like, they just go back to what we know, because I know, thanks a lot for that, but you're like, no, don't. And we're lucky, by the way, we had a brave coach in Dahlia at that time to actually believe in him, because all the guys at Celtic that I've spoken to have told me that Tierney was close to
way out.
Yeah, he's close to being on his way out. So, I like so when we do have one Aaron that develops and has a second wind and takes the chance, then you've got to applaud it. Don't just batter them down and go, anyway, get the new guy with a foreign name in just because he sounds good. No, fully agree with you. Get behind Scales. If he doesn't improve, if he doesn't continue to improve, or he plays poorly, then fair enough. But you can't. Yeah. Let's not just get him out because his name doesn't sound good, or we have memories of him playing poorly in the past. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. I just wanted to bring this kind of point into what we're talking about here, in terms of, you can't sell everyone that you develop as a club somehow, right? You've got to actually have players to keep for a while and gel and get a bit of cohesion with and build a bit of a cycle with. This is one of the buzzwords in football now, is cycles. And, I was one of the people, I thought last summer Abada was probably going to be the guy that we sold, because like on paper, talking about analytics, like Abada jumps off the page, goals and assists per minute, shots on target, all of his stuff, especially per minute. He wasn't a real 90-minute guy. Not many people were at Celtic under Ange, but his stats were all just like mad through the roof. And you think,
plus age and international as well.
Age as well. He was under 20 or under 21 or whatever, really young, or whatever. So yeah, like Abada's fantastic. I think we're all huge admirers of him, huge fans, but he's definitely not someone that have not been. I think we've all kind of half thought, oh, he might be sold. Like, he's always been kind of on the rumour mill, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it in the summer when we'd done the summer shows, and I think we all unanimously agreed that he would be one that was gone. I think the rumour mill at that time was pretty rapid. He was linked. We just kind of assumed that he was gone. In fact, that all the language coming from anyone from Celtic was roughly pointing towards that. So that was a surprise when he stayed. Definitely.
Because you need to keep, like, somebody like Abada, Maeda, even Jota, you expect these guys maybe do get sold, but it's great having McGregor there, but there has to be other players that you do build the squad around, and I think Scales is just an absolute peak candidate, like we played Feyenoord, you look both of their centre backs, Hanko and I forget the other guy's name, but they're not young, they're guys that have had to get a few bruises, get a few black eyes, develop, and push, so similar to Taylor, you've got to let these guys find their ceiling, and when you see it, and if it's not good enough, that's when you kind of make the call.
I totally agree. See, the thing is, right, like, so I seen McBride was talking about this before, and he made a really good point, which is that someone was saying, no, but we need, like that point that you made, we need to bet when we get this team's fully strength. And if you think that Scales is our level, and you're like, the guy, you have this vision of Scales before. And by the way, I had that vision of Scales as well. I thought he played really poor in the past. So I've seen that guy as well. But this guy that I'm seeing this season is not the same guy. He's clearly went, I'm only getting one chance here and I need to take it. And he's absolutely stepped up and taken it. It's what, like, the point McBride made was about the 2 man of the matches that he got in Europe. And you're like, because people were saying, Scales is not good enough for Europe. And you're like, well, what? There you go. There's factually which is really good. And just another point I want to make about Scales' development. When he went to play for Republic Island, where he's now pretty much going to be a starter, they played him on the left wing back because, again, someone had that idea, didn't they? Oh, he's got a left foot, play him in the left wing back, like that really sloppy, lazy approach. And what happened? He was terrible, right? Because that's just what happens when he plays in that position, because he's not good as a left wing back. He's just, and the number one attribute that you can just point to straight away is he's not got pace. So that's why he's not good at that position. And it's not even, I don't even need to go any deeper into the analytics on that. That's it, nailed on. Number one point, he's not fast and he gets done for pace. When he's in the centre of the pitch, he's able to read the game and position his body. I don't know how many times you've noticed this, right? But there'll be times where he's up against a faster player, but he's able to read the game and position himself in a position where he can get to the ball quicker than his opponent because he's in a big, a larger amount of space. Whereas when you're on that wing, exposed, tight spaces, 1v1, and it's pace, you're going to get done. And that's what happened when he did play on those positions when he's played for us.
Which I think, it's definitely a big facet of his game. Is you always see him recovering, knocking the ball out for a throw in, giving the rest of the team a chance to get back in and help and stuff like that. He's been like a proper. He does everything. He's just full of successful actions as we kind of think of it. He wins his duels, he wins his tackles, he doesn't make mistakes, he doesn't cause errors.
Do you know a good comparison, I would say, right? And I'm not saying that the two players are similar, because I think actually think in possession skills I don't think we generally appreciate sorry, I'm just reading that. Can we do better on skills? I mean, but what is it? So we're not going to. I mean, we're not scouting in the realms that we. Of course, we can do better on skills. I'm not suggesting that skills is world class, but what I'm suggesting is that skills is good enough for where we are. I mean, there's guys out there that have came up, like guys like Mickey van de Ven's and all those guys have been on the scouting radars, and Sutalo that went to Ajax, and there's Danilo Doeke of Union Berlin. These are all Sean's guys, and many, many more. Marco Marmol, Las Palmas, and and I'm sure you've got a lot more that you could fly into the ring there. But we're not scouting those guys. That's the bottom line. But you go back to, would you call it the likes of Scales when he's playing as a centre back. I think it reminds me of when Charlie Mulgrew was centre back. We toyed with playing him at left mid. We toyed with playing him at left back and all these other positions. And what happened? It was terrible. He was caught in possession against Sion away in that ill-fated horror defeat that we somehow managed to administratively win. I think that if we just keep him at central defence alongside Carter Vickers, that's a part of the pitch that I think we can develop and get better. In Europe, I'm not worried about Scales. Scales is not a player I'm worried about in Europe. Greg Taylor is.
Yeah.
Carter Vickers and Scales, I think, look good. I'm more worried longer term, if we're being really serious about this. Hart, Taylor, Johnson's current level needs to get better. It was last season's levels were phenomenal, but his current level's not there. But Carter Vickers and Scales are not the big problem at the moment, in my opinion.
Yeah. Maybe the only problem with Vickers is keeping the guy fit, because again, we've had the mad injury crisis to centre-back rear its head just before this little winter break. We've seen the rocky partner Scales. Who knows what the centre-back pairing will actually be for Bucky Thistle, because, would he play Yuki Kobayashi for shits and giggles? I don't know. I don't know if Welsh is fit. I think he's out for a while with the injury he picked up in the match, if memory serves me right. So it's definitely when the guy, if he's fit, him and Scales is we could get somebody better than Scales, but exactly what you're saying, Mark. We're not going to. How much does that guy cost? a guy that does everything Scales does, but better. How much money does he cost, and how good is that player? That's what I think a lot of people miss when they think about, oh, I'd rather Naroki plays better than rather than Scales. Well, there's a lot to just not even just to add to the team, but even to just maintain, because the passing that he's given in possession is fantastic. So we do dominate possession, and that is a big part of that centre-back role nowadays for clubs like us that dominate the ball, that dominate a league. So, yeah.
I think Scales' current level, though, like I think to say can't we do better than Scales is also not really appreciating his current level. I think his current level is already, as he's proven, is a decent Champions League defender. I think he's already proven that. We've seen many good players come to Celtic Park and just not deliver at that level. So the fact that he's shown that he can do it in Champions League matches, I've said this before. I thought in the Champions League we played well overall. Don't get me wrong, we went out and whatever you can say, sour grapes and whatever, the red cards that should have been given and goals and penalties and whatever. But I do think that overall I've seen enough that I thought that was good. Under Ange, I didn't feel like that, if I'm honest. In Europe, I felt that we were comfortably beaten. But that I had a little bit more hope and optimism this season in Europe. But if there is a better centre defender to come in ahead of Scales, fair enough. But I've not seen any linked that would make me go, oh wow, we need him. And certainly Laga, Bielka and Naroki are, and Brendan clearly sees that as well. But hence why they're not playing. And
I do like
actively...
Naroki, to be honest with you. I do like Naroki. I think every time I've seen him, I've thought he looks good. Similar to Kuehn when we've signed him. I think I can see why we've bought them both. I kind of get it. Lager, BLK and Palma, I don't get them as much. Bernardo, I'm still kind of jury's out. I know he kind of did well before the break there, but there's some players that I think you can, when you do see them actually in the shirt on the pitch, and when you see them when they're on their way in and you're doing these wee previews or you're looking on highlight reels or data sites or whatever, some players you understand, you can see, oh yeah, I can imagine him in the team, and some of them kind of baffle you a little bit. But so I think the Rocky fits the puzzle if we keep him, and if he is actually good enough, because the manager, like you say, he's the one that knows best. He sees the guy in training every day. So, but yeah, I wouldn't write the Rocky off, is all I'd say.
Yeah, I just personally am not. I'm just honestly just don't see a future at Celtic for him. I don't think. I don't know him playing at that left-sided central defensive position is going to work. I think
I'm thinking more about Carter Vickers and his injury record, bud.
Yeah, no. Look, I'm on side about the issue with Carter Vickers, but I think if Carter Vickers goes, then he tries to replace him straight out. I seen McKenna was listed. We still went for McKenna years ago, and I know that Celtic fans will probably be in the comments saying, "Oh, he's terrible, he's terrible." He's terrible because he played for Aberdeen. That's why they think that, and they associate all that. But playing for Nottingham Forest, he would be Nottingham Forest. I don't know if you know his situation, but Nottingham Forest want him to sign. That's the reason he's not playing, because he's refusing to sign a new contract, because he's running down his contract so he can leave. But he's got no shortage of suitors there, and he's a cracking player. He is very much in the CCV mould, and from what I'm led to believe, he'd definitely jump at coming to Celtic. So, but yeah, I don't know what's going on with Carter Vickers. You can't really argue with the injury record. He's definitely missing a lot of games.
See, with the injury record, he does have some links in the press over the last couple of days that some Premier League clubs are sniffing around him. And my first thought was, like, if somebody wants to pay you some money for him, like, if his injury record is this persistent, like, is it a money ball move? Is it you just go, oh, it's Juranovic and he's 28, it's Jackie Marcus, he's 28, it's Carter Vickers and he's 26, 27, and the injury record he's got is not nice, let's say.
But
is that
see,
a
the thing, you probably, yes, but see, the thing that I'm thinking is, like, are we thinking that these Premier League clubs are daft, though? And they're just going, oh, he's not been injured, we've not noticed any of this. If that's if they're on his radar, they're obviously going to be aware at that scale of, damage that's going on there. So I'm not so sure that they will be. I've seen the rumours. If he's fully fit, then yes. But there's clearly something that's a bit, because that's quite regular now. He's been injured. Obviously, had his operation. Was it before the cup final? So,
Yeah.
I don't know the long-term solution there, but certainly if we, I would say a different type of defender would be required, more in the McKenna mould if Carter Vickers has to go.
Brian Watt, I'm kind of with you, buddy, in the chat here as well. I think the Rocky does. I think the Rocky's got a big second half of the season on his hands, because it's hard to see Carter Vickers playing every match, and the title race is going to get really tight as the season drags on, So I think that, along with Brian's singing your tune as well, McKenna. But I think McKenna's a lefty, isn't he? So I don't think McKenna's. He'd give Scales a good run for his money, I dare say. But I think, do you bring him in when you've got Scales? And like the Rocky was I don't know if the Rocky's both footed, but I definitely think he was a left footer when we brought him in. I think that was the whole point of him. So you add in a third left-footed centre back potentially into the mix.
Yeah, but McKenna can play. McKenna's like a proper commanding centre defender. I think it's this anti-Scottish bias. Like when any of Scottish players go and play well, like we instantly just assume they're crap. I was crying out for McKenna to go to Celtic just in the same way I was for John McGinn and Andy Robertson and all the other players that I called way ahead of having to go down to do their ridiculous homage down south and come back and then go to other clubs. But McKenna for me was one that that definitely would do well at Celtic. I don't think Brendan rates the Rocky. I really don't. I think that the way that he's given him, the fact that he's not had him even in matchday squads at times has been pretty telling. All of the stuff that I heard was that him and Lagerbielke will be shipped out, not just one, but both. But if he does survive the window, then obviously at some point you would have to say that he will feature. But I could certainly see the two of them out. I would say Lagerbielke first, but it could be the two of them out.
Fair. I remember the comment. It was like talking about how they need to show in training, and it was a wee batch of them that were referenced. Yeah. And they need to show that they're deserving of minutes and training and all the rest of it. So fair enough. There's definitely some smoke there. Could be a fire, no problem at all. But yeah, I don't know. I just think Welsh coming into this picture as well has been moderately injury prone as well. I think the Rocky is probably the kind of safer bet out of him or Lagerbielke to be in as relief pitcher, as it were, or the kind of guy to come in for whoever does pick up 5 yellows or whoever is out injured for a week or needs a break for 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I didn't actually think we would be talking about centre backs as much as that, to be honest with you. So that's
but it's a key position because, yeah. Do you know my last point on that, Connie, is that it's quite telling that in that situation he put Stephen Welsh in ahead of the two of them.
Yes, true.
So I think that kind of told me that if Stephen Welsh is getting put in ahead of them, really are either of them going to have? I mean, I think we can agree absolutely Lagerbielke is done. He's not going to play for Celtic again. I think Naroki's the one that's 50-50 for me.
Him off for Welsh, and then you're right. Welsh obviously played the Derby, like we know, and then the Rocky comes in, gets 90 minutes over 2 matches, and then you get the cameo from Lagerbielke to maybe show the scouts that he's fit or something.
Yeah. I mean, so I think you've got Naroki's got. I would place him at 50-50 at the moment, in terms of staying at Celtic and then having any sort of chance. But I think from everything I've seen, it looks like Lagerbielke will be getting shipped out. I've seen a lot of teams in Serie A linked with him.
Because left back's definitely the area where we need, if we're going to be upgrading the team and we're going to be Brendanifying the team, because this Kuehn, whether he replaces Abada or not, right? But we've been missing this kind of incisive forward winger this season, a guy that can come in and support Kyogo with goals and assists to the team, themselves. With Abada being injured, that's been the real wing problem we've had this season. Is it's been Johnson playing on this side, or Forrest, or we're playing Yang, or we're playing. Dyson's been injured also, so.
I love that you just put Abada at the side of the pitch to show that he was injured.
Yeah, sorry. So I think that will be a big kind of add-on to the team. And I think, the left-back position, because of the ceiling that we get with Taylor, and if he is going to persist with either Palma out here, who I think we can all see the writing on the wall with this guy now, that he's not going to be burning people for pace. He's not going to be, dribbling by people very much. So he does need someone to, go beyond him and help buy him a yard or two. Or if we play Daizen Maeda on the left-hand side, he's going to be coming inside as an inside forward as well. And again, if that's the case, you need somebody that can do this job a bit as well. So it's very obvious that this is the next place where we need to go shopping, isn't it?
I actually think, as I said before, I'm okay, Palma's had 2 or 3 poor games, generally. But over the piece, Palma's performances and his performance data is strong, super strong. So what is he going to revert to a mean average based on it's actually he's worse than we've seen overall, or this is actually just a blip? We don't know that. I would imagine that this is just a blip and you will see better from Palma. And as I say, I think it's going to be a straight shootout, 2 or 3 for the 2 roles on the left and right, most likely to start with. I would imagine it will be, if it was a decision made tomorrow, I would imagine it would be Palma and Maeda, purely based on your strongest team. But I think there's a real chance that could be Kuehn, Maeda. I would say Kuehn is probably a better player based on what I've seen than Palma, and I think Maeda's a better player than Palma. So that would ultimately leave Palma out, in my view. But Palma's brilliant coming off the bench, so maybe that's a good longer term option there. But to take your point, and I totally agree with you, the left back position, it's actually not even about the going forward, because I think going forward it's okay at times, maybe could be better. The defensive part at times is just shambolic. In particular, Europe, we just look so carved open on that side, and Taylor he's just not good enough at defending, and he's just technically not good enough. When he's put in pressured positions against top class players, that there were the Atletico Madrid game, there was loads of situations he was just ripped apart. You could just see his level really exposed. Yeah, I think that is one glaring position that needs to be resolved, and quick.
Yeah, I think the defensive aspect is definitely a big part of how you see his ceiling, like we've kind of mentioned and like you've talked about there. But I do think that, I think he is good going forward, but the only way you can get him good going forward is when he is basically acting like a number 10, when he's edge of the box and he can either run towards that little space in between the 6 and 18-yard line and either get a shot off or play a ball in there. It's not really as being to use the lazy example of the Izagiri, or the Tierney, the wide left back that's going to take the line, control the line, and then get to the byline and either find the back post, front post, whatever's going on. He's not really that kind of left back. And yeah, I agree on Palma, right? Palma for me is kind of he's clearly got talent in what he does, delivery, taking a shot. He's kind of like Nakamura in some respects, where he's not Nakamura wasn't that rapid or didn't really, but Nakamura could still beat a guy. See if it was faced up with someone one-on-one, Naka could still go by somebody. Maybe he'd have to play a 1-2 on occasion or something like that. But so yeah, I just feel his limitations are quite there to be seen. Palma, if you know what I mean. Like, it does feel more like the kind of guy you would buy from like Hibs or Hearts or something like that, or Aberdeen or whatever, and they just come to us and they're just at a better team now, so they win and they score goals and stuff like that, but they're not really like moving the team up the level. They're a good player coming into a good team, and it's kind of that situation that's just pretty good. But I do feel that Palma actually put his body on the line, and he was robbed of some Champions League glory himself. So I maybe being a little bit critical on him, but I just like from the minute we signed him, I just don't get it. I've just not understood. And then when I watch him, I don't get it. Like, and that's maybe the main thing I struggle to move past, I suppose, is just I don't think he fits the team. I don't know why anyone that looked at him thought he would fit the team. And like, yeah, he's a Celtic player, back him to the hill and all the rest of it. But so I think Kuhn's probably going to put a bit more pressure on his position. And like you say, from the bench, like, he could be bloody fantastic, or at halftime, or just picking your battles when you need him. Because every match he's not the man. He's not the thing to have. And we've not had options. We've not had variety, really, have we? It's been the best front three, and then everything behind that has been grad. Mikey Johnson's coming off the bench, and we need a goal, or Tillio's getting minutes, and we need a goal, or
shudder, Tillio. What an absolute pointless signing that was. I mean, that was just a waste. He's clearly never going to play for Celtic, and you knew that at the very beginning. I think that I'm kind of the opposite on Palma, to be honest, because when he came in, my expectations for him were super low. I have to say, I watched a couple of games and I went, oh no, this is just Haksabanovic. This is just like the Jota towards, like, there was like the bad versions of Jota when he would just do stuff that it was so predictable and unhelpful, like just lobbing balls into the box. And I thought, no, this is just not what we need. And then he just started getting assists, goals, assists, and just I actually see him being less wasteful on the ball with his distribution, and a lot of his passes are
takes no risks. But in those cases, mate, that's the thing. But most of the time he's passing back. He's playing safe.
But I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm pretty sure we could get it right. But I'm pretty certain that in terms of his, final third contribution, it's as high as anyone. And like, if you're taking per minute in Scotland, I would be stunned if he wasn't in the top three. I'd be stunned. So he, in my opinion, like, I'll give you an example that sums up his distribution and where I think it's slightly better than others. Is that goal that we scored at home, where he knocked it through and Kyogo just broke the line and tapped it into the net. It was just so perfectly timed. It was like the second minute of the second half. We came straight back out and Kyogo scored straight away.
He played it like from in here into Kyogo's path.
Yes. Kyogo just like tapped. He just broke the line perfectly and just tapped it in. And I thought, that's the sort of ball that Jota would have got wrong, because Jota would have just tried something fancy, and Palma just got that absolutely right. What Jota used to do that just annoyed me, because I think in terms of pure natural talent, there is not much between Jota and Palma, in my opinion. But I think that Jota just shot more and just crossed more, whereas Palma...
Jota can dance, but this guy can't dance.
I think he's not far off it. I'd like to see the numbers on that, but I don't. From my own viewing, I don't think they're far away from each other on that. And by the way, equally as frustrating is because I love Jota. See, when Jota first came to Celtic, him and Kyogo lining up together was just amazing. That goal in the cup for Jota in Europe, where he's made that ball with it's like spun it with his instep and it's landed. Kyogo's taking it, perfect touch, bang, bottom right corner. just absolutely sensational. Goals like that and play like that is absolute prime Jota. However, so many games I just remember Jota just lobbing balls into the box. And when you've got at that time we had Rui Maeda just going, what you doing, mate?
You'd be head on
And
it.
there was some games like Jota's crosses would be like 12 crosses and there would be like 2 successful, maybe 1 successful. And maybe I'm being kind to him there, by the way, with those numbers, because it might even be more. But I think that's one area where Palma's slightly better. And I don't think that we've got anyone else in the team that plays like that, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, incidentally, because I don't think that we should be focused on crossing. I think we should be, and if I'm understanding you correctly, I think we agree, which is getting to the byline, cutting it back team, as opposed to just trying to cross, because teams don't score as much for crosses. If we can get that front line based on quick, fast interplay, getting to the byline, guys just have been brave and beating their man to get ahead of them, cutting it back, and then just building up with incisive passes in that inside the box to just score. That's where we were effective, and that's where particularly under Ange, and I think at any time this season where we've looked really good, it's been as a result of that. It is difficult though, I have to say, in Scotland. Some games that we play, it's just we're absolutely up against the Alamo. Like real.
There's not much space to play with.
The Dundees and St Johnsons this season, it has just been like Motherwell at home. The one we drew, was it 0-0 or that was 1 each. I mean, it's just like there's no. I mean, you're talking like they are just all on their 18-yard box, just on the 18-yard line, just defending for their lives, and in those types of games, that's where you really are looking for the greed ball players, the likes of Palma and Jota in his day. I think you've got a wee bit of that in Abada as well. Just that kind of maverick type style as well. I think if you can really, in those games, they're useful. I think because you do need to just take mad risks to break their lines.
Yeah, getting some support in the chat. The goal you mentioned is firmly burned in my memory, because when I seen it, like, again, I'm just convinced this guy should be playing number 10 or something like that. This guy should just be given a bit of a free roll to get the pockets of space where you want him on the edge of the box to take a shot or to play that killer ball or whatever. Because see, when he's out here, like with the Alamo packed in behind him, he's on the outside of the game the whole time, because he can't. If he gets in here, it's so much work to get him in here against, these 2 banks of 5 that we play against every week. So he's out here. That's why he's scoring wonder goals from all the way out here, because he's not able to really, for lack of a better term, really penetrate that often. So it does take a lot of hard work. You really need midfielders. You need the left back up here. You need runners, because they're all just camped in that line. And to get him into a really dangerous position, it takes a lot of work, which is why I'm always bemoaning him when he passes the ball backwards, because it's like he can't get anywhere. He's not going to take the man on and he'll pass it back. But anyway, that pass, when I see, I'm like, man, when Hatate comes back fit, it's probably never going to happen. But this guy, for me, should get some sort of shot in some sort of attacking mid-roll at some points. I think you get a much better player out of him. Maybe you need to pick your opponent for that, perhaps, but it's definitely something.
I think that's a good shout. I mean, it's something I've been crying for since the beginning of the season, and I was, like Welsh have been signing wingers. I've been saying get a 10. We need a 10, and I think as much as O'Reilly has been a brilliant 8 for us, and that first, not as strong as he was in the let's call it the first, the first half, not even the last 4 or 5 games, kind of not as good, but up until that point, he's been a revelation this season, vastly improved. I think. He's not a 10 though, and I think like you're needing a bit more explosiveness and a bit more penetration. And I agree with you, incidentally. I think, there's games where Palmer's just had mental long range shots, and it's not like he's just taken a hope and a hopeful hit. He's absolutely meaning to score because he's got that technique.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him. I think he's quick enough over that burst of, the short distances that he'd be effective in there. I think it's actually been one of the problems. God, I'm the wrong person to ask that question about Turnbull. How much would it cost? Well,
maybe Bernardo, if you fancy home to kick on, just take him out of the picture, and then you've kind of got your 2 frees again, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about Bernardo. Incidentally, I think that he's came in and he's done a job, and I think he's a good player. I can see as soon as all the bodies are back in, Bernardo's back to the bench. I just don't think he's as good. I think you can't, when Rio's fit, he's got to play. He's just playing straightforward. He's just a freakish talent. You just got to play him. I mean, Rio, you've just got to find a way to have Rio, O'Reilly and McGregor, irrespective, have to play. I love Awata. Then it starts to get a bit more complicated. Where would he play? But yeah, I think you definitely have to go Rio, O'Reilly, McGregor when everyone's fit. But it's good. These are go back to your point about squad depth. If you're really serious about pushing on and developing in Europe, then you need to move away from having guys like Turnbull as your backup and have more real quality in there as backup. And I think Bernardo and Awata, in my opinion, should be starting every game if he's fit, because he's just such a underrated player in general. Just technically so astute. He actually looks like he could be box to box as well for us. I'd just love to see him get a run of games. But these are good decisions, good problems when you've got that kind of quality. But definitely Turnbull's replacement value would probably be 2 balloons in a comic.
So that's that one answered. For sure. So I think we kind of danced around the squad a little bit, right? But the left back is definitely the area where everyone thinks we're going to be getting some movement. Now, the reason I tried to do this well, I've not done it well, but I think Kuehn is maybe an advanced replacement for Abada. Now that we've got him in, we're probably much more happy to listen to offers, I suspect. And with this whole left back situation, I'm nervous that we're waiting for Bernabe or Kobayashi, or we're waiting for something to happen before maybe we go and pull the trigger on purchase number 2, because we're getting some rumours now of the left back and the striker that we're in the market for now might end up being loans, and we'll wait until the summer to get our true targets.
By the way, see this boy at Liverpool who was at Dundee, and incidentally, absolutely tremendous player. I wouldn't argue with that.
Same. I think Liverpool plan on playing him, by the way. I don't think they rate Simicast, and Robbo's 30. So I think they fancy giving him a shot.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to... What, you mean now?
Like on their bench and stuff? Yeah, I think that's what I'm
pointing. Possibly. I think he's good enough. But I think that... I know that people that don't watch as many SPL games might disagree with me, but I actually think the most impressive left back in Scotland is Alec Cochrane at Hearts. I think he's having a super second part of the first half of the season. He's just been outrageous. Again, against us, he was just... I mean, it's as good a performance against us that I've seen. But, we're not going to get him. Incidentally, I know that we're not going to go for him, but I would love to bring him in. I think he would fit. He's so dynamic, so fit, and just gets up and down. you know,
rinsed against us.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he absolutely murdered us that day. But I would go for Alec Cochrane. I think we could probably play the SPL card and get him for a fraction of what he's actually worth. He's still only like
Who was he
21.
up against in this match? Mikey
Was-
Johnson. Come on, mate. Come on.
No,
He was up
no,
against
no, no,
Mikey
no.
Johnson.
He was up against would you call him Alistair? Because remember, he's properly down that wing. He's spent most of the time.
Yeah, I suppose he did have a mare.
He's basically ran Alistair Johnson to the ground. I think that anyway, look, he's much better than Greg Taylor, in my opinion. Infinitely better than Greg Taylor. Owen Beck is infinitely better than Greg Taylor as well, in my opinion. And I think Greg Taylor's a good player and will win the SPL with Greg Taylor. But I don't like the idea of signing loan players that are going to be the future. If we're going to be serious, just go and buy Owen Beck. Just go put in or stipulate, we'll take him on loan with the option to buy. I definitely like to see that because he is an outrageous talent, Owen Beck. But I think Alec Cochrane is more the finished article for now, and Alec Cochrane still. What age is he? I think he's 21, 22, maybe the oldest.
Is he 23?
Is he 23?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. Well, there you go.
Born in 2000.
So 23-year-old, plenty of time to grow with the team. But buy them if you're going to go. If you're going to go for anybody at left back, let's just buy them. Stop this stupid. We've got half a season. If you put Greg Taylor to the metal, if Greg Taylor's not up to it, then fine. The other guy gets in and merit. But let's not be this club that keeps developing players for other teams, like for Liverpool to then go and put them back in and or sell them for come on. It's getting tiring. Like we're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Let's need to start behaving like it instead of these ridiculous loan deals.
So we're all kind of after really in this window is like the kind of wake up call to it all, I don't know if I'd take, like, if we get a left back in on loan, it has to be a guy that's like, we just couldn't thrash out the deal like in time for the window. So we've got loan with like a guy, it's a guy that we're going to be buying anyway, but it's just maybe the whole transfer finagle. It's technically a loan, but we've got the guy sewn up. We'll be signing the deal permanently in the summer. Similar to maybe like Dyson, that loan was basically done when he came in, and there was somebody else. I know Vickers and Jota was a bit different, but there was somebody more in that Dyson mold. And if we brought someone in like that, I could dig it. I could get behind it. But yeah, I don't want any half-baked, half attempts at this one because we've got to win the league. We have got to win the league. We've got to win the league. We've got to win the league.
Quinny, see what happens if, just in your opinion, see if, let's say we did get a left back in, what would happen to Taylor?
You keep him? You Ralston and Welsh him?
But is that where you see him?
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's totally fine to play for Celtic, but we've seen his ceiling.
So
need more.
So let's assume that Taylor would leave, right? Where would you see Taylor going?
If he was to leave, I would really hope he would move abroad. Like
to the Brazilian Serie A, get him into Palmeiras.
No, I could. Again, it really depends. But you think about the teams that scout this league. Like Italy's the first one that would come up. I don't know if that would really happen, because of his size. I know that's a bit of an old dinosaur thing to say, but he is like diminutive, let's say. But like Belgium and some of these kind of places, I don't know. I could see him Portugal, where it's a bit more about technique with the ball and that kind of thing. I could see him doing well on the continent because he is like a very good inverted left back, but like we've got a ceiling with him, and right now we're trying to build a team that can go above where he's at. Unfortunately, for now, maybe he gets better in the next couple of years. Again, who knows? Defenders do age better than maybe some other positions traditionally, but I would keep him. just keep him. Everyone loves him. He loves being at Celtic. He can still like jostle for the position and put pressure on this guy and not give up. And that's my shirt, and I'm not going to let go of it. You can keep on that, no problem at all. But we need to bring someone in better than him. No two ways about it.
Do you think he could play in English Premiership teams?
Taylor, no, I don't think so.
That's kind of where I was.
You talked about the Atletico Madrid game, but like every game in the Champions League last season, especially this season, we just kind of knew it was going to happen. But when you seen against like Shakhtar and who was the other game? Was it Leipzig? You're just like, come on, man! You should be okay in these ones. Like these games, you should be able to, give a bit better. Defensively, like 1v1s, he gets shredded by, I think, almost everyone we've had him against, unfortunately. And like you say, it's defensively is where we need the upgrade part of it. Offensively, he's kind of good, but he's not perfect for Rodgers' ball, and that's probably why the attacking part of it's got a bit of focus.
Do you know another one? Like, because I like we talk about this. We featured them on our last podcast. I don't know, spoil it for anyone that is tuned in that listens to our podcast. But Josh Doig is a player that we featured in the last podcast, and someone I've had my eye on since he was at Hibs. Obviously went to Verona, and he's had this mental scenario where he was going to Marseille. Marseille are a mental club, aren't they? You wouldn't say no in his position to go and play at the Velodrome and historic club. Won the Champions League by cheating, as Brian Clough would say. But looks like he's going to go either back to Verona or they've accepted a higher bid to go to Sassuolo. I mean, those types of guys are guys that I don't know if I've heard murmurs he might be Rangers. I know Rangers will try to sign him, and he flat out, I've heard it from various people that were in touch with his agent that he flat out rejected Rangers. So I don't know if that, if there is any truth that he's a Rangers fan or if not. But a guy in that mould, I mean, he's just another young Scottish guy, went to the Serie A, been absolutely superb for Verona, attracting huge attention. I mean, Marseille are absolute. I mean, they've got some elite players. They just sold.
Always a basket case, but there's always some crazy stuff going on with them.
There's always crazy stuff, yeah.
What's the guy's name? Is it like Scots Abroad or something like that? There's a few Scottish kind of.
That's a good wee account, the Scots Abroad. Good bit of...
Yeah, I like them as well, mate. Don't get me wrong, but they're coming out, mate, and they're pure slating Verona and how they've handled this whole thing. We're not going to get into it or anything like that, right? But it's just I said to him basically, you've got to give a bit of consideration here of the fact that Marseille mess teams around all the time, and you've got no idea. Like Verona have just sold a guy to Napoli in like 4 days and gone. Like Napoli came in, put the money on the table. They said, "Aye, cool, we sold." Boom.
He was brilliant. He was at Groningen, I remember.
Yeah,
he's brilliant player.
Yeah, so like if Verona get their money, they tend to sell. So that's all I said about it. The guy didn't respond to anything, but there's this mad Verona hate going on. The mad Scottish accounts that love to watch the guys that go abroad and whatever. But now for Taylor, for me, like I don't know if maybe Serie A could. He's a very good left back. I'm a huge Taylor fan. I love Greg Taylor. I think he's a great Celtic left back in general. But if we're going to be playing Champions League and we've got aspirations of building this exciting squad with Hatate, with O'Reilly, with Kyogo, etc., we've just found his ceiling and we need something a bit better than that now for where we're at. Something akin to the quality we have with Alistair Johnson, we've had with Juranovic, we've had with Tierney. That's the level we need to kind of get out the left back.
Fully agree. Do you know something that's actually interesting when we did sign Alistair Johnson, because I watched a lot of him when he played in the MLS. I remember he played for. I wanted to sign both of them as well, but when Alistair Johnson, he played at Nashville, because then he went to was it Vancouver when we signed him. But I remember, Montreal. I remember watching him when he played at Nashville, and he was playing alongside the Panamanian captain Annabelle Godoy. Anyway, he was quite good for Nashville, and I thought, yeah, he'd be okay at Celtic. And I looked at the stats in comparison to Juranovic, and Juranovic basically outperformed them in every single area. And I thought, this is a straight downgrade. And obviously he came in, smashed Rangers players, got the crowd all moving, and everyone's just, like, wow, he's amazing. And I'm not saying he's not amazing, because I think he just overperformed. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, are we now seeing his real level? Because when you look at Juranovic now playing with Union Berlin, he's now nailed on in that starting 11 for them.
In a very good league.
In a very good league. And okay, they're poor this year in comparison, but they've had a lot of injuries to contend with. But Juranovic, yeah, I agree with that guy. Juranovic was just class. And I think, if we're to be honest, Juranovic was a level. All right, sorry, yeah. I don't know which gender that person is. But it was, I think Juranovic was definitely, if we look at it in the cold light of day now, say that he was definitely a better player than Alistair Johnson. But you never know, Alistair Johnson might have a level to go up. Be good to see it. I mentioned that as well earlier on. Mitchell Frame, he's definitely, in the small sample size I've seen Mitchell Frame play, he looks really good. Certainly worth getting him on the bench and exploring, giving him more game time.
Yeah, definitely. If we can develop someone in that position as well, then all the better, of course. I really hope we spend some real money. We spent $3 million on Kuehn. We had Luis Palma joining us. He's watching the Twitter stream. Luis, good to see you, my man. We've been loving your stream, mate. Promise didn't say a bad word about you.
He's really struggling for time, things to do, for stuff to watch.
Hail, Luis Palma.
Luis, I've been singing your praises, son.
But I think spending $3 million on Kuehn is a guy, maybe not quite that Juranovic level, where it's like you're buying someday, it's a bit more of a known quantity. I think Juranovic coming in as a Croatia international, fair enough from a poorer league, let's say in Poland, but if Croatia are picking you, that's normally a good kind of hallmark kind of thing. But that's the kind of level of proven quality I hope we go out and sign for left back. And you're not going to get that kind of guy on loan in January. That's a guy you're going to need to buy. You're going to need to put your money where your mouth is, put your intentions on the table and make a deal happen, to get the number one target, whoever it is we're going for. Because, we need to win the league. I don't know if I mentioned that enough times already, but we need to win the league this year. There's no two ways about it. And there's no laurels to be rested on in this one, because this is going to be the biggest Champions League payout ever. And see, for fans like us, Mark, this is the sort of payout where there's even less excuse for holding on to the money. And we should, as time goes on, it should be unavoidable that we spend more and more money on players if we're consistently in this new Champions League where we've got 5 home games, 5 away games, better chance of knockouts and playoffs and all that caper and everything else that goes along with that. And this kind of new generation of European football or world football that's going to be unfolding really for the next probably 10 years or whatever. So, we need to win the league. We need to get that first taste, because the board are greedy. Everyone knows the board are greedy and everyone knows they love the bank balance. And they need to get that first taste of, we made 100 million. We made 100 million. Let's do that again. Let's make sure we can do that again, and get that side of the club really turning over, because, so we need to get a proper left back, proper high-end quality, somebody like that Juranovic level, guy that gets capped, is about to get capped, or plays at a good level, is clearly, we bought Lagerbielke, right? I don't know if you've seen this rumor today or the last couple of days, but there's this guy coming out of Norway called Bergvall, and everyone in Europe is fighting for him right now, like Man United and, this team and that team. Everyone's going for him. And see, when I see this, I'm like, we must have scouts crawling all over these leagues, and I've never heard of this kid. Why did we buy Lagerbielke? Why didn't we buy this guy? Surely if you're scouting Sweden and Norway and all these other places that we scout, surely you've heard of him. Celtic, why have we not went for this guy that everyone else is bending over backwards for all of a sudden? So
I don't know. Do you know? I don't deny that we are aware of these players, right? Because I know that when we let's look at the J and the K League, 2 leagues that I know really, really well. In the K League, Celtic basically missed about 5 or 6 really, really, really obvious guys to get, and they went after 2. I mean, Kuehn, who's away to St Mirren now. I hope that works out, by the way, for him at St Mirren. I'd like that to work out for him at St Mirren. However, I don't know where his future lies, if he does have a future at all at Celtic. Him and Yang wouldn't have been the players that I would have went for in the K-League. I mean, there's really mental, obvious ones in there, like Yeom Jae-sung and Yeom Wan-sang and Seo Young-woo and so on and so forth. There's tons of them that you would have went, wow, he needs to come into Celtic if you've got the money. I mean, that boy Seo Young-woo at Ulsan, the left back, he's a bit of a Sorare phenomenon. Just incredible left back, to the point that I think even Antoine Griezmann was going mad about him.
Yeah.
But
swapping shirts with him.
Yeah, you probably get him for about £1 million or something like that. But I think yeah, there he is. Just absolute insane. He's playing in the Asian Cup at the moment. He's pretty much he's actually been playing in right back just to accommodate the fact that they've got like Kim Jin-soo and Lee JT or TJ even playing at left back, who's the
somewhere.
Yeah, the Samsung Blue Wings guy played, I think, at left back for them. But him, oh my God, he would be perfect for Celtic. And fans would go, oh my God, as soon as they've seen him. He's rapid. He's one of the quickest players I've seen. Stand out in the K-League. Easy the best left back. As I say, they've been playing him at right back. He's good, but he's not as good at right back because he's left-footed, but strong. He's quite tall, brilliant physique, super athletic, technically incredible. Lots of assists, lots of shots on target. Lots of key passes. Brilliant player. So anyway, that's the players that we didn't go for. We went for the guys where Yang was on the back of a setting season blues, where the season prior he was outrageous. Then when we bought him, he was just going in a downward curve. Yeah. So I'm sure that Celtic are fully aware of these guys that we've highlighted there, but they're just not pulling the trigger. And I think that's the bit where you just know through history. Clubs that didn't pull the trigger, like Motherwell had a chance to get Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and all these stories, and you're just like, why did they not just pull the trigger? So they know who they are, but they're not pulling the trigger, and they've got to say why. Who is making the decision to say no? And I go back to, I don't want this to be a 5-hour show because it will if I start this point, but it goes back to Lowell and the board and the fact that they mess around with these deals, because obviously to get somebody like Seo Young-woo or something like that, it would need to be a bit more of a complicated deal. But it's these under the radar deals that there's not huge competition in there for, to get those guys out of there. But yeah, I don't have much confidence that, that, as I've said, and someone says earlier on the show about, get a replacement for Scales. It's just like, I don't have the confidence that we are scouting in the right places to even come close to doing that. And Kuehn is about the only one in a while that I've thought, oh wow, that's a good signing. That fits the data analytics quite nicely for our style of play, and it's going to work out quite well for Celtic. But so many of the other ones, yourself, as soon as you've seen these guys play, like in the J&K League, and it's just face palm straight away. You just know they're never going to play, and that's it. You're like, what Tilio as well? I mean, I know that you've told the story that you've spoken to guys that watched the A League and stuff like that, and they thought that Tilio had went to Hibs or somebody. Guys that I know that follow the A-League have said similar to me, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to what's going on with scouting. I think the pulling the trigger part is largely a big factor of why we're getting the wrong recruitment. I just like to see who's in that process. I have a real, because I know that Lawwell always was in the old, on the old screw up days when we messed up the McGinn deals and all that. I absolutely know he was, because I know people that were part of those deals that have told me exactly things that happened, and he made some crazy bloopers in some of those deals. I don't know if he still is. It definitely has the hallmark of Peter Lawwell, the way that we're losing out on some, even Livakovic. Go crazy, just bring him in. Spend crazy money, bring him in. Totally. Even at the moment, I mean, going back to goalies, I don't want to get too drawn into that, but
no, I think goalies is probably where we go next anyway.
Yeah, Arajanit Muric at Burnley is. I watched that game. I watched that game against Tottenham. Oh my God, what a keeper!
We're not going to be able to get him, but are we? Because Burnley paid 20 million to sign him.
All right. I'm just saying. I think it's actually probably.
I was quizzing a Burnley fan on him the other day, because I was like, "Well, what would you probably try and sell him for?" Because they love that Trafford kid, and like they paid 20 million for him, so they're going to want a few bob. It's fair to say. So I don't think the Muric dream is going to be rekindled in this kind of coming window. Maybe after a bum move or something. But
he's like, I mean, see, even that as well. Like, when people, I'm not a goalkeeping specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but I do listen to a lot of the, a lot of the specialists when they're talking about, those specific factors in terms of possession-based retention and positioning and the ability to play the ball into certain areas accurately. And when you watch Muric play, Muric is like an outfield player when he's got the ball. In fact, he's like a very good outfield player when he's got the ball. I mean, I'm sure for anyone that's not familiar with Muric, go and check the highlights out of the Tottenham Burnley match and just watch. He's like spraying passes, just like like
Liam Scales.
Yeah, but even better at times. Just pinpoint to his man away out in the wing, and you're like, wow, that's outrageous. And then he's got the mobility, and when he's called upon to do saves, and the other thing I just really like about him is he's so commanding. He comes out and just bounces everyone around him out of the way and just grabs the ball, and doesn't matter. He's fearless. So yeah, as soon as I watched that game, incidentally, I went and bought his card on Sorare. I was like, I traded guys. I was like, I need this guy, because wherever he goes, he is going to be unstoppable. And I don't get why they're so crazy about that Trafford. Trafford is way behind Muric. Like, in all progressive metrics, he's way behind Muric. I think it's like, you ask Burnley fans, I've checked some of their comments, they go, shot stopper, and you're like, you read that somewhere. You don't even know what that means, son. Shot stopper. Everyone just says that, shot stopper. You're like, yeah, that's what a goalie's meant to do, stop shots, yeah. So what does it mean? It's like when you go into like one of Sean's favourite metrics, which is post-shot XG, like Muric is like crazy high on that. Like, Muric is just like, he's like, almost adds you like 5 goals a season or something like that, based on it's maybe even higher than that, based on post-shot XG. So he's one. Really, Ajax looks like he's leaving. Another potential.
I think he's maybe a bit too problematic for us and probably a wee bit too expensive, but maybe. But again, they're talking about like, so there's not going to do. They're looking for a goalkeeper right now. That's what they're telling us, but they're not going to probably do anything about it until the summer. And you know, we were talking last summer about opportunities missed. We see Trubin go to Benfica for like 12 million quid. And there was another couple of transfers that weren't too dissimilar that shook out for not too much money and have been a success. In the January window, the window you can't do any business in, Croatian youth international Ivor Pandur that I mentioned on the channel, he's moving to Hull for like 7 million quid or something. I don't know. It's something a championship team can spend anyway. I'm sure we can spend the same. And
yeah, he played at Verona, did he
for a
not?
goalkeeper now. It feels like we're a bit late to the party for this kind of crop that's been dancing around the market the last couple of windows.
Yeah, agreed. And I think like I think that what's going to happen is we'll get Hart to the end of the season, and then that'll be his swan song. And I think you and I both naturally thought the same thing, which is he'll end up in the MLS. But I think like, because I know Celtic were looking at Cozy Tani, who's one of your favourites from the J League, who's now, I think he's went to Machida, the newly promoted team from J2 into the J League. So, or is it Shonan? I forget anyway. He's went, not Shonan, no, Shonan. He's went to Machida, yeah. Cozy Tani's really good. It was a strange move he made to go to play, was it second division in Belgium? But back in the J League, he was a player that was Celtic absolutely reached out to try and to bring him in. He was one that was going to be coming in the last winter window this time last year, and it didn't happen. I think he would have been a good long-term replacement, but I don't know. I think that you need something like that. Let's call it a project, that they love to say. You know, someone like that. Kelleher was obviously talked about a lot.
Seems to be the favourite for it, doesn't he?
Well, listening to Liverpool talking, it looks like that's already dead in the water. Looks like they just have no interest in letting him go. So, you know, unless it's Celtic go all in to get him in the summer, he's certainly not coming now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really sure that we just go all in on him either. Like I think there's, you know, I think the age profile is probably good. You know, he's in that bracket, but I don't know. I think we should be looking at, you know, Croatia is obviously a great platform for younger goalkeepers. There's a bunch in Austria as well, you know. So I don't know, but I don't know where we're looking at the moment for goalkeepers, but I think that kind of younger profile that's able to play that more progressive style, because to be successful in Champions League football now, you need to be able to play out from the back. You need to be comfortable. If you look at, like, you know, Shakhtar, I watched a lot of Shakhtar. I think, but particularly when I lived in Ukraine, I watched Shakhtar all the time. And seeing Trubin playing out from the back and just thinking, wow, that is just mental. And like just being so comfortable, like even when he's got the ball in his own goal line and stuff like that, you know, not even attempting to do anything else, just looking for a pass out to, you know, the left or right backs and stuff. And you're like, this is just nuts. That level of goalkeeper. Probably, don't know about you, but I'd say Trubin's probably what I would consider to be the number one young keeper in the world at the moment. Can't think of anyone ahead of Trubin. But yeah, I don't know where Celtic go with that. It's a mystery.
That is. And if it's going to be resolved in the summer, that's when everyone else is doing business as well. That's when the prices are all, you know, you're then like, excuse me, sorry. People are talking in the chat how we'll get dragged into wait until the end of the window, which I believe we will as well. But that happens in the summer. And the summer window is way longer. And I don't want to be playing any games with Bain and Siegrist. So, like, you really hope that they steal the march on it and they try and get this deal done like as soon as possible. But I think there'll be so many, if they are looking around for goalkeepers at the moment, there's so many keepers that come the summer, their options are going to be totally different depending on the club they're at now. Maybe they qualify for Europe or get promoted, depending on what division they're in, or something happens, and then all of a sudden coming to Celtics, we're priced out of the market. No, it's not capable, it's not possible. So yeah, I would it's something that I'm just really fearful for, because I think it's a move that they've been putting off for a season, and this fact that there's like no real progress been achieved just makes me, that's probably the position I'm the most nervous about us spending money on.
I think the thing is that I'm comfortable, by the way, as waiting until the end of the season to get that right, provided it is right. Because look, as much as we've slagged Joe Hart, he's not played that bad this season. In fact, there's been games where he's just been phenomenal. His post-shot XG in certain games has been fantastic. There's obviously been a couple of games where he was less than... Yeah, I mean, the game where he's trying to save the ball behind the line, was it at Madrid away, was not a highlight of his, but I think that you just want to get it right, because we just want a keeper that's going to be there, a good 5-6 seasons that we could, really build, club going forward with it, that has that kind of youth and athleticism about. I think we've done our kind of big name keeper who's got the great past and everything. He's not got the ability to play the way that modern European football is played, and that's it. Good at when it comes to shot stopping, as people would say, but when it comes to building attacks and when the ball's coming at him, because a lot of defenders are playing the ball back to the keeper, not as comfortable, and we're just simply going to need to have that going forward. So take the time, get it right, make sure that we get the right. I would hate to see us just jump in this window and just splash money in somebody just for the sake of it, and then we're stuck with someone else that we don't need just because we had to get somebody in. Then because realistically, what are we up against the second half of the season? We should be winning this league. I'm not meaning to be, we should be winning this league. I would be, and certainly Hearts' role in us winning that league is not going to be to the level that Kyogo's or, Palmer, McGregor's or Hatatis or O'Reilly's will be. So, those guys are the ones we need to be right on it. Some games, Hart doesn't have a save. So, it's really, can we get it right for next season as we go in to be taken seriously in Europe?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Definitely don't want to mess it up, but I say I'm just upset and nervous and scared that it's just going to be a whole mess of a problem next year, because it's just been kicked down the road. We've got one here from Brian. We'll probably just wrap up with this one. But is there any pressure? Like, Turnbull's out of contract in the summer. I think we're trying to get some money for him. If we do move him on, or we are just going to exile him, is there any pressure to bring any more midfield in this window? I think Odenholm, if I can just put 2 cents on this one now, I've liked the little glimpses I've seen in him. I don't think he's that much of an attacking, number 10 type. Like, I don't think he can really be a creator in the final third. It's a good kind of box to box, and 8 is just the kind of as the kind of phrase goes these days. And I think Bernardo, if we've got him on the books till the end of the season, I don't think there's any need really to go and get a midfielder, because, like you say, what's the job? It's win the league this year. In our cup, fine if we can get that, whatever. But the league, and yeah, I don't think the midfield is really going to let us down between now and the end of the season.
I mean, I think I think anyone that's watched or listened to me on this show will know that I am not a fan of David Turnbull, and I think that it's probably best that we just call an end to this as quick as possible. And I think more for his sake as well, because he's clearly got a talent, and you want to see him continue his career where he's playing games, because it can't be fun for him just having all that development that he had at Motherwell, and he done well at Celtic as well. in general. And he's had periods where he was a nailed on starter and done great. But at this point now where we're at, he's just clearly off it, and he's not got that ability to affect games in the way that we require, a la Hatate, a la O'Reilly, McGregor. So, in the backup guys, I think I agree. I think now you're looking at Bernardo's ahead. I think Iwata, when fit, is comfortably ahead. Odenholm, I agree with you. See, the thing, I look at Odenholm slightly differently. He's not a jam today guy. He looks to me like he will eventually become really good for us. Yeah. I think he needs time to develop. I think even physically, I would just like to see him just bulk his body up a bit and get himself developed so that he doesn't get thrown off the ball, and just because technically he does look like he's got something about him. And I think he's a good team player. Is he not like 19? Or did I just make that up? Like, is he not really young, Odenholm?
Aye, he's is he 19? Let me go and check his age. He is. Yeah, he's also really young. He was nominated for like Golden Ball or something like that, like the top 50 list. Now he's 20 on his card at the moment. So yeah,
he's 20. Right, okay. So he's got plenty of time. I think obviously.
Now. It's his birthday in January. His birthday today. Wow. It's his birthday today.
All right, happy birthday, Odenholm.
Happy birthday, Thiago Odenholm.
Wow. I've just taken 2 years off your life there by saying that you were 19. But
today, me, man.
No, but you know what? I think he's definitely got something about him. He's definitely not got it right at this moment, and I think his physique is what's holding him back from what I can see of him. I think if he took some time and bulked out a little bit and got kind of worked on his conditioning, I think he could grow on to becoming a real good player for us. But again, 21-year-olds, nothing. He's got plenty of time to develop. But yeah, I would. I'd definitely say at this moment in time, it's the end for Turnbull. I don't think Celtic will get enough money to make it interesting to get rid of him just now. I think he'll just run down the contract and he'll go for free in the summer.
End up at Barnsley.
Do you know something? Barnsley was the team I had in mind when I was thinking Greg Taylor, but I was maybe being harsh. I was thinking Barnsley were still Championship, but I don't think they are anymore, are they?
Are they not?
I might be wrong. I'm not. I don't. I know lots about what's going on in Japan and Korea, but I couldn't tell you about the English Championship. But yeah, I think Turnbull could do a good job for a team in the English Championship. I think he just needs to get a run of games where he's the man. He's the main man. And he's not expected to win every week. So when the wins come, it's what a player Turnbull is. He needs to have that, because at Celtic it's just Turnbull played great, and it's like, right, great, next. What you need to do again next week, mate? And it's just that constant brilliant. You can't have dwelling on it and just be one game brilliant and next game okay. At Celtic, you need to be brilliant every game, or the fans just expect the standards to be massive, and he's not at that. I think he's a good player, Turnbull. I do, despite my getting on top of him, I do think he's got real talent. I just think he just needs to go. I think his time's up.
Yeah. And speaking of time up, I think that'll probably be the end of the show this week, guys. If you're going to the Bucky Thistle game, I don't know how many away fans will be going to that one. If you're watching the telly, go to see somebody or whatever, have fun, stay safe. Mark, will you be watching the Bucky Thistle game yourself, mate?
Absolutely not.
I don't think I will be either. Hail, hail, everyone, and we'll catch you next week. Hail, hail, Mark.
Hail, hail.